Hey dorks. Before the Macintosh, Apple had another computer with a graphical user interface based on a desktop metaphor and a heavy price tag. This machine was of course the Apple Lisa, and its story's been told tons of times over the years, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about its history here beyond a quick refresher. The Lisa was released in 1983. It had a 5 MHz 68000 CPU, and it cost $10,000. It was a commercial failure, and eventually after Apple released the Macintosh, they reworked them into a larger Macintosh called the Macintosh XL, before discontinuing them completely. The Lisa isn't really remembered now for what it could do, but for being an oddity, and with collectors for its rarity. Not many were sold and tons were scrapped. The ones that are left today circulate through collectors and estate sales, fetching huge amounts for a computer that can't really do much. Not only are the existing ones rare, but many of them are damaged by the clock batteries leaking inside of them, leaving their boards and internal components ruined. 23-year-old Lisa enthusiast Alex Anderson-McLeod reverse engineered the boards and created a set of one-to-one perfect replacement PCBs that can accept donor parts from an afflicted Lisa. These boards are open source, so if you've got a Lisa that needs new boards, it's as simple as going to Alex's GitHub page, downloading the Gerber files, and sending those to a PCB manufacturer to get replacements. As for PCB manufacturers, you can't go wrong with PCBWay. They've got tons of options for colors and finishing, and if you want your boards assembled, their turnkey assembly service can solder all of the available parts that have modern replacements quickly and affordably. If you have other projects you're working on, they also have high-quality 3D printing, CNC machining, and sheet metal fabrication services. I get all of my prototype PCBs from PCBWay, and I highly recommend giving them a try for your projects too. There's a link in the description if you'd like to give them a look-see. Replacement boards for the Lisa aren't all that Alex has been working on though. There's also the brand new FPGA-based Lisa replacement called the LisaFPGA, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. This board has a lot of stuff going on with it. For one, we can see a couple USB ports on the front. These are for using a USB mouse and keyboard to control the Lisa. You also have the option of hooking up a real Lisa keyboard and mouse, if you've got them. 2 serial ports on the back, along with an HDMI out. Along the right side, we've got 2 SD card slots, one for the profile hard drive emulator, and one for the floppy emulator. You can also hook a regular Sony 400 or 800K drive, as well as the floppy emu. Lisa 1s had a special floppy drive called a Twiggy that never really caught on, but if you've got one, you can hook it up to this thing. You can also hook up an Apple Profile hard drive if you don't want to emulate one. And finally, it takes power through USB-C. In the upper right, we've got a bank of switches for options like overclocking the CPU, and switching from rectangular pixels to square pixels. That's right, the Lisa uses rectangular pixels, but when it's running as a Macintosh XL, it's desirable to switch to square pixels, otherwise the Mac looks all stretched out the way your parents' TV did before everything had been switched over to HD. This is a pretty big board and I want to protect it, and as of the time I started making this video, I didn't see any case designs for it, so I decided to have a crack at it and fired up FreeCAD and got designing. Priority 1 for me was to make this thing look a little bit like a Lisa 1. Try to match the curves of the case and the overall theme. It looks like the font used on the Lisa case to label the ports was probably Helvetica, so I'm using that here too. Time for a print. Unfortunately, the large curve on the top makes this thing a bit difficult to print, so I had to revise it a bit. Let's assemble it and see how it looks. My printer isn't big enough to print this thing in one piece, so I cut the bottom and the top into 2 pieces each and snapped them together with some super glue. The ES floppy disk emulator has an OLED screen, so I'm putting some standoffs here to hold it. Now to assemble the top. To make this thing easier to assemble, I added a peg to each button and a slot for that peg to each channel that the button goes in. I can put the button in, twist it, and then it doesn't fall out when I turn the top over to attach it to the bottom. These switches on the board are too short to be reached from the top of the case, so I made some extending caps for them. And some heat set inserts for the screws. Now I'll pop the back plate in and put the top down, being careful to line up all the switches with the holes. And some feet. These things never stick well, so I'm going to help them out with a little super glue. Let's fire it up. So I've never used a Lisa before, but I've seen some videos, so let's see how I do. To create a folder, there isn't a menu option. You have a pile of folders in this window that you can grab one from. Applications work the same way. You don't open LisaWrite. You tear off a sheet of LisaWrite paper and start writing on it. How about some Lisa Draw paper? It belongs in a museum. Now Lisa Calc. That's a pretty cromulent spreadsheet for 1983. What is Lisa List? Oh, it looks like a little database. Lisa Project? I have no idea what this is. Let's look at an example instead. Oh, a project management thing. This is pretty cool for 1983 too. More people might have used this at the time if a machine didn't cost as much as 2 economy cars. So, what else can we run on this thing? There's Xenix for this thing? Xenix was Microsoft's Unix of the early 80s. Well, it's Unix. Let's check out MacWorks, which basically converts a Lisa into a Macintosh XL. Yep, it's a Mac with no sound and 2 megs of RAM, and a slower CPU than the original Macintosh. But on the plus side, it can play Glider. But this isn't a Mac. Let's go back to the Lisa side of things and see what else we can do. How about a look at some fractals? This is how people gauge the performance of their computers back in the day. Wow, this is how long it takes to draw? Let's do something about that. These switches here turn up the speed. Let's go as fast as we can. Okay, yeah, this is much faster. At full speed, it's 18 megahertz, faster than any Mac that had the basic 68,000 CPU in it. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's fire up the floppy MU and see what other software I can run on here. As of the time that I filmed this, the built-in ES floppy emulation wasn't ready yet, but I've just learned that it's ready now, so what I'm doing here with the external floppy MU will be possible right on the screen on the top of the LisaFPGA. Oh, it's all the same stuff. I really need to find some more software. I think aside from the price, the lack of anything to do with the machine is what really held it back. In an alternate reality where the Mac never came, who knows what would have happened with the Lisa. With the LisaFPGA, the replacement PCBs, and the newfound enthusiasm in the Lisa community, there's a bunch of new software popping up. Things like the LisaFPGA can bring this little oddity of a machine to more people with a much lower asking price than a real Lisa. If you want a LisaFPGA, there's a pre-order at Joe's Computer Museum. And if you want one with the case I designed, you can get one there too. I've got a lot more exploring to do with this, but so far it's so damn cool and such an impressive project from an awesome person. This isn't the final form of the LisaFPGA either. Alex tells me that a board that can fit inside a real Lisa and replace the board entirely with a LisaFPGA is on the way if your boards are too damaged to be repaired or to be donor boards. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to get ad-free early access to my videos, consider joining my Patreon. It's only $3 and I post behind-the-scenes stuff there from time to time, and all the music I make from the videos is up there too if you're so inclined. If you'd like to see me do more stupid stuff with computers, stay tuned.